Are you ready for the Tomoquads Ul4 V-string build video? I am. Because Tomoquad rocks.
Tomoquads is in my soul. With Tomoquads, I'm ripping it up, oh yeah.
What's going on YouTube? It's Desode here again. It's time for another Tomoquads build. And as I always say, you know, Tomo, he cranks out frames that I really want. And there's usually a specific design quality to that frame that makes me really want it. So this is one that's called the Tomoquads Ul4 V-string. And this is an ultra lightweight frame that has replaceable arms, and it also is available in the Ul3, which is the exact same frame but in a 3-inch version. We're going to do the 4-inch version. One thing that I love about this design is I want a small quad, a 3 or 4 inch size frame that is designed to handle the RunCam Split. This is right there with, you know, the whole disc loading theory thing, because this is a super ultra lightweight frame, which Tomo is very good at, and it's also very strong from what we've heard from the test pilots. The one guy's crashed it into car parks. He's, you know, grinded it across the concrete. I mean, it's a tough little frame. I'm always looking for a good US shop. I've been using a lot of the HGLRC. So I came across GotHeliRC.com. I contacted them. They had everything that I needed for this build. Shipping was incredibly fast. Customer service top notch. Definitely worth checking out. Great shop in the US, especially if you're building this quad or any of our other quads, because we use a lot of these parts in different quads. So anyhow, let's get into this. Let's go through the parts list, see what all is being used, and we'll get into the build, guys. Let's look here at the Tomoquads Ul4 V-string kit and what all you're going to get with this. First, let's start off with these arms. These arms are 3mm thick, and they've also been cut along the weave for added rigidity. I want to make a point, too, of saying that this frame is totally designed specifically for the lightest weight possible. So one thing that Tomo did with this is we just went with the 2-hole brace for the motor. Now there is a printable protector that you can put on this. The 3D printing file is available through the Tomoquad site, or a boot that fits around and protects the edges of the motor. So if you are racing on concrete or something like that, and you can go ahead and 3D print that, and it'll fit around the base of the motor and protect those sides. These arms bolt on with 2-bolt pattern, and the test pilots wondered about that at first, but it has turned out the way Tomo designed it to be super strong. So that's something that we have not seen in a quad out there with removable arms. There hasn't really been any that I know of that use a 2-hole mount design on the replaceable arms, and it's this strong. Let's go on over to your other plates. One thing of note, which I really like here, is the V plate. The top V plate is done in silver colored carbon fiber, so I think that's really cool. It's a nice little touch to that. Your other plates, including the V plate, are all 1.5mm, and the only thin plate is the bottom plate 1 meter, which is no big deal because it's pressed and added strength with the 3mm, so that's super strong there too. Then you're going to get your bag of hardware here, which it comes with the hardware so that you can go ahead and mount the RunCam Split to it, and your standoffs, and all your nuts and bolt. And also I want to say that this is coming with titanium bolts for the arm mounts, so that is, you know, a big part of the rigidity with the replaceable arms. that Tomo added to this design. This is an ultra lightweight frame. The UL4, which is the 4-inch version, is you're sitting with the frame is right around, and all the hardware at 36 grams. You know, you can really make this very, very lightweight. And then also, as I mentioned at the previous start of the video, the UL3 and the UL4 are both on the same frame. So if you bought the UL4 and you wanted to also do a 3-inch, you can order individual arms, or you can order a set of the arms for the 3-inch and just swap them out and have your 3-inch also. And then for the camera, I would like to send a big thanks out to RunCam. They have been absolutely great. The reason that Tomo can make sure that frames fit certain cameras is when, you know, the companies that make the cameras take the time to work with you. You can check and make sure that they fit the design parameters. And RunCam sent us a split for this build, and I just want to send a big thanks out to them. It is the only camera out there that can fit in these micro quads that can do 1080p, 60 frames per second, do well in low light, and just do everything that you need it to do. Alright, so for the flight controller, guys, we're going to use the new cube from HGLRC, which is the XJB F428. This is also the version that comes with the third stack, which is a TX20. Now, this is a VTX that goes on top of the stack and is switchable up to 250 milliwatts. So that's something new for HGLRC. And I want to make a note that real quick, that I've used the F425 from HGLRC in a bunch of builds before. I believe it looks to me as if they have completely replaced the 25 amp 4-in-1 ESC, which some people had some problems with. I had a couple problems, but I bought a lot of them. So some guys that just bought some here and there didn't have a lot of problems with them. But they've replaced that with this new 4-in-1 ESC, which is a 28 amp version of that. So we're going to see how that goes, and I think we'll probably maybe do a little review on this entire cube on the channel since it's new and it just came out. I also want to make a point too of saying that once again I got this at HGLRC, and that they are the only place in the United States that I know of that has the 20 by 20 millimeter cubes, and they just started carrying all the HGLRC products. So if you're looking for a good cube, you can go there and pick one up. So let's look at the motors here that I've picked for this build. I usually use, when we do a 1407 build, I usually go with Brother Hobby 1407s. Never have had an issue with them. They're a very good quality motor. I've also, in the past, I've used a bunch of Cobra motors on different racing wings and aircraft. So I didn't know that Cobra was making little motors like the 1407 for quads. So I came across that and I started looking into the data. For you guys that don't know who Engineer X is, look him up on YouTube. He is the absolute best on the web for testing motors. Now, keep in mind that we are talking bench tests here. So the motor is strapped down, so the amp numbers, you know, are different than what you're going to get in the air. But these motors in the 3500 kV version were doing really well on 4-inch props with a 4045. They're doing, and this is a 3500 I'm talking about, they were doing 849 grams at 26.3 amps. The 1407 3600s on a 4045, they were drawing more amps than what the motor is rated for, so he had a caution on that. Now, a general rule of thumb is that you can take 30% from the bench test. So let's just say the 1407 Cobra 3500 kV is doing, with a 4045, 849 grams of thrust at 26.3 amps. So if we take 30% off of that, which is a relative safe number to say, and this build is going to be lighter than most, then you're cleared down to like 18.4 amps. I also talked to a couple people, you know, around the old interweb that were using the, I believe they have a 4100 or a 4400 kV. I can't remember exactly, but they were even doing 4-inch on that. And the one guy that I talked to was also rocking a split on there. I just wanted to go with the 3700. It's right down the middle, see how they perform. I want to get the most efficiency. We're going to try using a 850 milliamp 4S pack. And my goal with this build is to get a really nice solid 3 to 3.5 minutes, or at least right around 3, really ripping on some freestyle, because this is a freestyle build for me. Okay, for props, there's a couple different props that you can use. We're starting to see more 4-inch props. I feel like the 4-inch build is kind of coming back. They came out a while ago and then they just never flourished. But now that we're starting to see these lightweight designs, we're starting to see a lot more 4-inch. So the first prop that I'm going to use here for this is going to be the 4043 from HQ. This is the V1S, and it's showing on the bench around 828 or 830 grams of thrust, but it's drawing a little bit lower amperage. And then the next prop that you could use also would be the Dow 4045. Now let's go ahead and get this frame together. First thing you need to do is you're going to take 2 plates, the straight X plate and then your bottom plate, and you're going to come from the bottom to the top with your titanium bolts and then your screws, and you're going to put those on. What you want to do is do 2 arms first, and note that this will tell you your top plates. That's your FC is going to sit on top of that with your nuts facing up. And then you're going to have this little piece in the kit. What this little piece does is slides right in here to brace those arms in the square. And then you can go ahead and attach your other arms. But one thing I want to make a note of showing you too is these arm pieces for the motor mounts, or where you mount the motor, have a little cup there, and that is supposed to be there so that if you would have an issue with the motor and the C clip comes off the motor, it will hold the C clip in there. So I know I've had some people ask me about that already on our group forums, and that's why that's there. So go ahead and get your arms and your 2 bracing plates together and get all 4 arms on, and then we're ready to go ahead and start mounting the flight controller and getting ready to solder on motors and measure wire length. All right, so now that you got your arms on and the frame all bolted together, you can really start to feel the rigidity of this frame. It's crazy strong with this design that Tomo came up with. But you can go ahead and take your ESC and mount that onto the bottom plate. And I want to make one more point too of saying that you can use a 30 by 30 flight controller on this. I'm using a 20 by 20 flight controller, which is what I recommend. But I also want to make a note that these holes right here that you use to mount the FC and ESC are M3 holes. But you can use, as you see here, I'm using M2, and I had no issue with M2. They hold nice and tight, and I was able to mount it on there just fine. So next, we're going to go ahead and get our motors out and start getting the wire length measured and get our motors all soldered onto the ESC. Now that I got the Cobra 1407 3700 kV Championship Series motors on there, I've snugged them down onto the arms so that I can measure the wire and trim them a little bit. I always use Threadlocker, and I want to give a big shout out to Mercury Adhesives. If you look up here in the top right hand corner, there's a little link there to an interview that I got to do with these guys. They make the best quality glues that I've seen anywhere. Even works on, some of their glue even works on carbon fiber for repairs and foam repair for your foamies, anything you need. But they also make this product here, which is Threadlocker. I use Threadlocker on all of my quads, and it's even super duper extra important on a build like this because we only have 2 screws for mounting the motor. This Threadlocker of theirs is top notch. It's a medium strength, and the great thing about it is it's got a little tiny fingernail polish brush inside of it, so you can just dip it down in, put it on the threads, and not make a big mess. So a big shout out to Mercury Adhesives. Check them out on their Amazon store and get yourself some of this. If you're building quads like I do all the time, you cannot beat it. Now you can go ahead and trim your wires and go ahead and always remember to pre-tin your ESC connections that gives you a way easier ability to connect the wires just right, especially on a 2020 board, because those are small tabs. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to get my battery connector ready to go. You can use XT30, XT60. My batteries are XT60, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And you'll note that right here is where you connect your battery, and you can do it on either sides, but the bigger tabs are here where the arrow is on the BS28A HGLRC 4-in-1 ESC. So we're going to go ahead and get that done and move on to the next step, guys. Okay, guys, now we need to hook up the flight controller. So let's quickly go over the connections on the flight controller, and also make sure, if you want to, you can look in the description, and there will be links to the diagrams for this also. I'm using a Spectrum SAT DSMX. So you're going to have 3.3 right here where it says DSMX. That's your signal, and then you can pull your ground right from there. The next thing that we're going to be using is up here in the front is your camera connections, and this is where you're going to run your camera in. This board also has a built-in OSD, so you want to run your camera in, and then you're out to your VTX from back here. So let's start with this here. We have 5 volt right here, which is what we're going to use for the RunCam Split. And then the center is your signal, and then your far right in the front is your ground. From there, we're going to go back here to your VTX. That's going to be your video transmitter in to the board. And then here in the center next to it, this is the VCC or V+. If you're using a Swift 2 and you wanted to use that OSD, that is a direct readout from your battery. So keep that in mind. It's not 5 volt. It's going to go by whatever battery you're using. And then you have a ground there also. Now over here on the right hand side is where you're going to use your buzzer. You have your 5 volt there, and then your negative there or there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the TX20 from HGLRC. This came with my stack, and this is a nice little VTX here. It's very simple connections here. Everything's marked on the board, and I'm going to go directly of how we'll do to the stack, which we just went through. This accepts 7 to 24 volt, and so we can run this directly off the V+ on the flight controller. So you want to run this to your V+ on the flight controller, and then that'll run it directly off the battery, so you're good there. And then next is going to be your ground. Right there is your ground. And then where it says VI out, which is going to go from there to where it says VTX on the flight controller board. Okay, now that you got all of your electronics connected and your stack in place, you can go ahead and get your standoffs out, and note that there's a couple of different ways for different cameras. For the RunCam Split, using these black 3D printed pieces, all of the camera pieces slide onto the front standoffs, and then you can go ahead and mount your camera in there, get it connected up. I'm using the RunCam Split, and I'm going to kind of a strange direction because I wanted to use a 2020 stack, and I'm going to soft mount the RunCam Split board on the top plate, but from the bottom. So I've already got my double-sided 3M sticky tape there, and we're going to put it all together, and then I'm going to put my Lemon DSMX on top of that, and we'll be good to go. Awesome build so far, and I'm going to put that together, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so we got it all together. Here's where I'm at. My goal was 250 gram build, which I weighed the parts before I put it together, and trimming all the wires, getting it down as much as possible. I'm at 251 grams. So it should be absolutely ripping. That's with the pack is on this thing sitting on the scales. So 4S 850. And things should be ripping on 4 inches, guys. I'd like to wrap this video up. Sending a big thanks out to the people that sponsored this. First of all, Tomoquads. Always a pleasure working with Tomoquads. Tomo makes some awesome designs. And it's just, he's said it many a times, man. He's the best designer out there. And it's an honor for me to get to work with him and test these frames. And then second, for all of you guys, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the subscribes. I appreciate the like clicks. You know, this channel is all about you guys, especially you Tomoquads fans out there that want to know how to build these things. So big thanks to all of my subscribers and my viewers. And then I also want to thank RunCam. We're super honored here at Tomoquads to get to work with RunCam. You know, they sent us this split. We were able to design this frame around the split so that we would have a 3-inch and a 4-inch that was designed to take RunCam Split. So that's super great too. But anyhow, guys, keep a lookout on the channel. We're going to have some more stuff with the RunCam Split. I had a subscriber ask me for a video about how to do your initial beta flight setup, so that's coming. And I'm going to be tuning this thing and getting all the tweaks done, and then we'll have like a full review with it. And also, this thing's going to permanently live in the back of the car, because I wanted a 4-inch that I could throw in the back of the car and record HD and go do freestyle and film at locations, different cool ass areas to fly at. So gonna have a lot of that coming up too, guys. All right, thanks everybody for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed the build video. You got any comments or suggestions? You know, I'm always open-minded to that. Please leave them below. And all the other information that you guys need is in the description below. All right, guys, Dassault out. Happy flights.
Tomoquads is in my soul. With Tomoquads, I'm